Melanie. Thanks, Opposite. Yeah, so I actually think it's really apt that we're standing in the pouring rain, because we're likely to be standing in similar circumstances if the carbon usage of the planet keeps going on. We're going to have more and more extreme weather events, and this is probably going to be summer. And also we're standing in the city of London, where all the money that funds all the fossil fuel extraction comes from. And buildings around us like the Gherkin host companies like Aviva, who invest in companies like Shell and BP. But the money that they use to put into those companies is actually ours. It's all of our pension savings. Anybody who has a job here is going to, in the next few years, find themselves automatically put into a pension. So every month, part of your salary will be given to a pension fund manager like Aviva or Standard Life or BlackRock or Legal & General, and their job is to ensure that that money is invested to provide for you in your retirement. But at the moment, most of that money, or a great proportion of that money, is taken and put into high carbon companies and fossil fuel companies, which means that they're betting with your money on a 6-degree world. So they're using your money to destroy the planet, and they're using your money to ensure that when you retire into a world that you don't want to live in. And so that's a real big problem, obviously. But the good news is that it is our money, and therefore it's about time that we took control of that money and that we actually determined what we want to happen with it. So when Occupy London started, and you guys were outside St. Paul's, we spoke at your 10th university, and we spoke about how much we admired the physical occupation of the stock exchange that was taking place through that movement, and how we actually operated a metaphorical occupation of the stock exchange, whereby we enabled people to take control of their money and to demand that the big giant insurance companies and pension providers were in fact providing for your future and providing the future that you wanted. So the good news is we've developed a whole series of tools for people who want to take this sort of action and who want to make sure that your money is managed in a way that protects your interests and your planet. And so we've just launched a campaign called Green Light, which is aimed at enabling individuals to demand of big pension funds that they use our money in the way that we want to. And we're going to be training up individuals. We're starting tomorrow with our first training session, training a load of workers to actually demand of their pension funds that they divert money away from fossil fuels towards building the type of future that we need, which is a future of green jobs, cleaner energy, and a sustainable economy, so that we don't have burst bubbles like the financial crisis. That's what is going to happen with fossil fuels if money is continually ploughed into them. So we're going to be enabling people to make demands of their pension funds through a series of easy actions, and we're going to be demanding that pension funds disclose what exactly they're doing on climate change to tackle it, where they're putting your money, demand that they divert your money towards a greener economy, and that they disrupt fossil fuel companies' activities. Right now, fossil fuel companies are waiting to go into the Arctic to drill for oil. Shell disastrously went up there last year without being prepared. Thankfully didn't have a spill, but had every other accident imaginable, and realised they weren't prepared and decided they wouldn't do anything for 2013. Arctic oil only makes sense in a 6-degree world. If we burn a single barrel of Arctic oil, we have a 6-degree world on our hands. Shell have spent £6 billion of shareholders' money in messing up in the Arctic already. In other words, they've spent £6 billion of our money pursuing Arctic drilling. We, as the owners of companies like Shell, and we do own those companies through our pension funds, need to be... Sorry? Okay. We do own companies like Shell and BP, and they're burning our pension savings pursuing a project that only makes sense if we have catastrophic climate change. So we should be demanding that our pension funds say to companies like Shell, don't spend our money creating climate change. Don't spend it pursuing dangerous, risky projects like the Arctic, which only makes sense if, frankly, we're screwed. Give us back our money. $6 billion being poured
into a disastrous, uneconomic, completely senseless project from any perspective other than a director whose remuneration depends on him finding more reserves. That's all that's driving the reserve race. Directors who are incentivized to get rich by finding oil that no one should want or can burn, and doesn't make sense if you're a shareholder in Shell. So there's many ways that we can actually work with the people in those big buildings like the Gherkin, the people who are rushing by us now who don't really think it's all that relevant, to show them that actually this isn't much about financial and economic well-being. This is about preventing another catastrophic economic collapse. I often say that our campaign with fossil fuel companies and pension funds is rather like if we suddenly had a time machine and we could go back to when Fred Goodwin was running RBS, whose HQ are up there. And when Fred Goodwin was coming out every quarter saying, we've made you more money, and we're going to buy this big, massive Dutch bank because I just want to buy a big, massive Dutch bank, what would we say to him now if we had that time machine? We'd tell him that his quarterly returns, which look great, are actually founded on a house of cards. That the fact that his share price is spiralling will mean nothing when the bank has to be nationalised and bailed out by the taxpayers, leading to cuts and austerity. That big dick-swinging purchase of a Dutch bank serves no purpose but to help destroy RBS. That's what we tell him. We would tell him, don't do it. And that's what every shareholder would tell him, knowing what they know now. Well, they're going to meet the new CEO of Shell in a few weeks. They don't need a time machine. They know the Arctic makes absolutely no sense. They know that it is the equivalent of an ABN AMRO purchase for RBS. We need to make sure that we, as the bosses of those pension funds, have them going in saying, don't do it. It makes no sense. It will burst this company eventually. It will lead to a collapse in your share price, and it will cause us to lose money, and it makes no sense. So we have that power because it is our money. If you work and you have a pension, it's your money. The Royal Mail is being sold back to us this week. We've been convinced to buy something we already own. And just like the Royal Mail, we actually own all of these big giant companies. It's our money. So it's about time that we took the Occupy physical occupation and brought it metaphorically into the stock exchange through our pension funds by demanding action. We will help you. Joe, who's with me, is the man who's going to help people do that. And so anyone who's interested in making pension funds have that conversation with Shell about getting money flowing into the type of economy that we need to build, contact us, and we're very happy to help. Thanks.